It's a question that's been around forever, right? What is the real root of all our suffering? Well, today we're going to dive into a pretty provocative text that has a startling answer, one that really challenges the very foundation of our society.
Okay, let's jump right in. The source we're looking at today kicks things off with a pretty massive observation. You have these incredible figures throughout history. Think Buddha, Jesus, Marx, who all tried to end human suffering. And yet, here we are. It's still with us. So the author asks, what if they all missed the real problem? So to get to the bottom of this, the author uses this really powerful analogy. They ask us to think about it like this. What if our societal problems aren't actually moral failings, but more like an illness, like a virus that's infecting the entire social body? So, okay, if society is a body, what are its cells? According to this text, the most basic, fundamental building block of society is the family unit. The author argues that if we want to understand the health of the whole body, we've got to put that single cell under the microscope first. The logic here is actually pretty straightforward. It's just like a doctor checking your blood cells to see if you're sick. The author is suggesting we can do the same for society. If society is suffering, if it's sick, then the infection must be inside its most basic cells, its families. And this right here is where the argument gets really controversial. Because if we follow that analogy, the source is making a pretty shocking accusation that the family unit itself is the infected cell right at the heart of all our collective pain. So let's see how they build this case.
Okay, so the author lays out this clear chain of cause and effect. It all starts with the very structure of the family, which creates this immense pressure to provide for your parents, your spouse, your kids. And that pressure, it fuels what we all know as the rat race, that relentless chase for a bigger house, a nicer car, better schools for the kids. This whole pursuit forces us to constantly compare ourselves to other families, and that competition, the author argues, is the direct cause of so much of our anxiety, our mental anguish, and even corruption when people feel they have to bend the rules just to give their family an edge.
And to bring this big theory back down to earth, the author points to a common saying. It translates literally to every family has its own difficult scripture to read. But what it really means is that every single family has its own set of problems. It's this piece of folk wisdom that suggests that struggle is just built right into the family structure itself.
So here's the crucial point. The author isn't blaming individuals. This isn't about bad parents or difficult kids. The argument is that even the best people, the most well-intentioned people, once they get into what the author calls the program of the family, they become infected by all its built-in pressures. The problem isn't the players, it's the game itself.
All right, so if the diagnosis is that the family unit is the virus, then what on earth is the cure? Well, with a diagnosis this extreme, you can bet the proposed solution is going to be just as radical. Let's take a look. And there it is, stark, simple, and pretty shocking. The solution this text proposes is for people to just stop forming new family units. Now, the author admits that trying to dismantle families that already exist would be unrealistic and cruel. But they argue the only way to actually cure society in the long run is to stop creating new infected cells. Now, the author is totally aware that this idea just blows up the entire blueprint for modern society. Getting rid of the family doesn't magically create a perfect world. In fact, it creates a whole new set of massive problems that we'd have to solve from scratch. And these are just a few of the huge questions the author raises. I mean, think about it. The family is our default system for basically everything, from raising the next generation to taking care of the sick and the elderly. Without it, how would society even function? Who would be responsible for all these essential roles? The text doesn't really give us the answers, but it definitely puts these enormous challenges right on the table. And so, we're left with this final, really provocative question. Is this idea a path to a kind of utopia, one where we're all free from the pressures and conflicts of family life? Or would tearing down society's most basic building block just lead to a whole new kind of disaster? The author gives us a diagnosis and a truly radical cure, but the consequences, well, they're ours to think about. So, what do you think?